Yes, ma'am.
All right. And we are
And we
live.
are live.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We're here with the one and only Winston Templet. Winston, you want to tell the fine folks what it is you do?
Well, I do real estate investing, so I'm a real estate developer. So we go out and buy land, and then we take the land and we will do all of the entitlements to the land. We'll do the rezoning. We'll do all of the engineering, and then we bring it to full construction and we do the complete build out. Typically, we hold, we don't sell, and every now and then I'll do a project that I sell, but I don't really care for selling too much. I would much rather hang on to whatever we build. We have just under 300 doors that we rent now, so those are all just passive income renters. We have no investors. About $53 million in our portfolio. We're fixing to do our very first syndication, and we're hoping to pull that out of the ground in the next 90 days. So that'll be the first time I do anything with a partnership, which will be very
Nice.
interesting. We haven't done that before.
Nice. What made you want to go down that route and do your first syndication?
Well, I have a development that's a 60-unit apartment complex that I was going to build, and I'm about a year out, 2 years out on building it. And I have probably at least a half a dozen other sites that I can build on too, of the same caliber, some of them even better. So I had a friend of mine he owns a couple of distribution centers for Amazon, and he said, "Hey, why don't somebody bring you the cash and let's syndicate it and let's just do it." So we made that decision to do that, and we brought another friend of ours in that does syndications to make sure that everything is done right, because I don't want to mess anything up for investors. And now the three of us together are putting it together and going to do it. Now, the cool thing about that is the first thing we did whenever we started putting it together is I hired an appraiser to come in and do the appraisal on what the land was worth. And that land came back. I paid $100,000 for the land. I put another $250,000 into the engineering fees, and the appraisal come back at 1.3 million. So we'll make about $1 million clear profit off of it when we start that deal. So that's the first thing that happens is we get paid out.
Wow.
Which is kind of cool. Kind of cool.
Land entitlement's very lucrative, I've learned.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Can you tell us what you know about land entitlement?
Yeah, so I am also a developer. We are currently doing storage unit facilities. My name is Jacqueline Matoza. I'm not live on here or anything, but we are mainly in the Texas, Tennessee, Arizona, Vegas, Florida, Georgia, Carolinas areas is where we develop, and we're building storage units. Basically, the gentrified states that have a high housing demand, we're coming behind and doing storage. So we entitle our land as well. We do a two-phase syndication. The first phase, we entitle land, and the second phase, we actually do the development, so we're not holding on to cash as long. So congrats. Syndicating's fun. I enjoy it. I don't know about you, but
well, I'm looking forward to it. I want to do some stuff a little bit different, and that's the step I haven't done yet.
Yeah, that's great. It's great you're open to learning new things. What areas are you in?
So we are just in Tennessee. So we own about a third of our portfolio is just north of Nashville. Then we have about a third of our portfolio is in a town called Smithville, Tennessee. And then a third of our portfolio is just outside of Chattanooga in a town called South Pittsburgh.
I've heard Chattanooga's popping right now. We're looking at some lands.
All of Tennessee, with the exception of Memphis, I think is doing really well. And Memphis is doing okay, but I'm not a big fan of Memphis, so I haven't done any investing in the Memphis area. I stay, Nashville or east of Nashville.
Memphis was top 25 Airbnb locations for profitability, actually, which I was surprised because, yeah, me too. I was same reaction. I was like, wow, that's interesting. So, yeah, fun fact.
I had a business over there for several years, and I just fought so much with employees and dealing with bringing new people in and hiring help and stuff. I just walked away, and I just never went back to Memphis because I just had such a bad experience in that. And I think once you get burned in something, you say, I'm not going back.
Absolutely. I know the feeling. Well. Yeah, for sure. So are you doing debt on your projects as well as syndicating the equity or just pure equity?
We are going to do about a $4 million raise on that project. to build
Nice.
it. So we're going to have a lot of equity in it. We're only going to rate, the total construction cost is probably going to be somewhere around, everything out the door will be about 12 million. We're thinking somewhere up in that area. So it'll be, I guess a third of it is what we're going to raise and the rest of it we're going to do with debt. Now, I don't typically do that on all of my builds that I do now. I go in, I build everything with cash. So I have never built anything with a construction loan. So all of my projects I do, I will go in and I'll build. I'm leveraged about 23% of my portfolio. So with being leveraged 23%, I can typically, I'll pull, if I need money, I'll pull some equity out of a different property. I'll build whatever I want to build. Then I'll do a cash out refi when I finish, pay it off, and then pay off or pay off the previous note on the other house, and then just hold debt on that particular project.
Nice.
So I'm not a big debt person, really.
I noticed.
But you spend time with the Robert Kiyosaki's and the Rich Dad crew. What they say debt's your friend, don't they?
That's what they say.
How many deals did it take for you to get debt?
I never had any debt probably the first 10 years I was in real estate. So I didn't put in, I made good money in my business and my business just paid my way. Now I do see the benefit right now of the property that I do have debt on. I'm able, as we're going into a 10% appreciation still in Nashville. When we were at 20% appreciation, my appreciation on my properties was running about $1,000 an hour, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So we was making 24 to 26,000 every single day just on appreciation.
Wow.
So it was huge. So had I leveraged a little bit more, instead of 50 million in assets, I would have 100 million in assets or 150 million in assets.
You're starting to do the math.
Yeah, $150 million appreciating at 10%. That's, I'm not saying my decisions have been the best. It's just what worked for me up till then, and now we're looking at some other avenues maybe.
Nice.
Yeah, we use debt. We are very aggressive on debt. I think the best debt we got was 90% loan to value, including sponsor costs, on our syndication. So pretty high leverage. And, I think we'll have very close to 90 to 120 million under development by the end of the year. So we're cruising pretty quick too. So, but we like debt. Yeah, we like debt. We've only been doing it for about 9 months this year. We just pivoted out of multifamily, went into storage. We kicked everything off with our first land in April. So
that is awesome.
Yeah. So that 100 million, is that all this year?
Yeah. We started April of 2023. We left single family or multifamily. I left single family in about 2020. I still have one rental. That's it. That's a condominium.
So did you sell all of it, or you sold all your single family, multifamily, and just took it all, rolled it all into self storage?
Yeah. Yep. I was done. I was fed up.
I hear so many people that want you to diversify more. I'm pretty content with where I am, and I love your attitude right there of you're all in on it, and I don't see self storage going anywhere. I mean, it's here to stay. So it's a good asset class, and you're making some good returns on it. Why would you do something
triple
else?
Digits? Yeah, we're making triple digits. So each project's pretty good. I think for me, we diversify by geography, by location. We stay, we don't do two projects in the same town. So we pick areas. Our one of our projects is in Houston. We've got San Antonio. We did our first land buy was in Morganton, so North Carolina. So we're pretty diversified. We're pretty spread out. We stuck with where it's gentrified and the demand is about double what we're building. So if we're going to build about 100,000 net rentable square feet, we look for demand to be at 200,000, give or take a little bit. But we try to keep the double demand. Like one of the towns we're building in, there's no big block REIT in there at all. There's no public storage, there's no extra space, there's no CubeSmart. We're building the first one. So there's high demand on the buy side for when we go to sell it. We've got pretty good demand from our potential REITs that will buy it. So it's exciting.
So whenever you go into that and you're looking for land to acquire for that and do the development on, how big of a lot are you looking for?
2 acres.
2 acres? And how
Yeah,
many
2
units
acre
you putting
minimum.
on 2 acres?
Everyone asks me units. We stick between 50,000 and 100,000 net rentable square feet. That's the buy box we stay in. So we like to go vertical. We like to do 3-4 stories usually. We like the big facilities. We have some drive ups with larger land parcels where you can drive in and there's drive ups on the driveway in. But I don't know how many units. It's about anywhere from 600 to 1,000-ish, give or take, based on demand in the area, right? We look at all the demand, we look at what's supply, unit mix wise, and then we fill in where the unit mix is missing. So it just depends.
What is the pop? Are you judging it off of the population of that area? Or judging it off of what big box stores are there? What are you judging whether you're going to an area or not by?
We look at the 1 mile, 3 mile, and 5 mile radius. So we like to see demand all across all 5 of that before we look at building anything.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty big, 5 mile radius. But if you think about it, who wants to go drive 10 miles to go to a storage unit? Most people would never go. They would never visit it. They'd be like, meh, leave it in there.
No, I agree.
Yeah, so we try to stay with population growth, high density, low storage. I think the average per square foot is 6.5 to 8 about nationwide. So we always try to stay around the lower end. So we know that there's high demand. We like being low numbers. That's when being the lowest number is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a very low supply. We're good. We're good to go. So
that was one thing around where we are here in North Nashville. I was talking to one of my real estate guys, and he was telling me that they were struggling over here. He said, we kind of got a little bit too much at the moment. Too many people came in building at one time. And he said, right now is not the time. Because I had a place that I was looking at self-storage on. And he said, man, he said, we don't have, this isn't the time. So we may look at that a year from now or 2 years from now. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, wait till the housing catches up. Usually, sometimes we piggyback with multifamily. So they'll build the multifamily. I was on a phone call earlier with a developer here in Texas. He's got $1 billion worth of land that he's looking to develop, and acres all over. And we told him, we said we like to go side by side, because if you're bringing in housing, there's more demand then, so you can put storage in the more gentrified, the ones that are already stabilized, the markets that are more stabilized. So we like following multifamily developers, definitely.
I got you.
Yeah.
That's the ones that are going to store their people going into an apartment complex always seem to have stuff to store. And,
yes.
And it typically will stay.
Yeah.
That's a good, I think that's a good concept.
Yeah, I'm an empath. So owning multifamily, I've already done one recession. So the 2007, 2008 recession was deep and tough. And, I was new to investing, and I was like, man, I don't want to be evicting homes, and I don't want to be kicking kids out. And so this time I just spared myself. I took the pivot. I left. I mean, storage is it's recession proof. I love it. It's a cash cow. So it's not a lot of money in to build. You get a lot of money out on the back end. Safe, very safe. The loan to cost and the loan to value is, very good compared. So how's the demand in Tennessee still going?
It's good. I mean, we were in Nashville the other day, went and seen one of my attorneys over there, and just sitting in his office in the middle of Nashville, you could count 22, 23 cranes that are building buildings around Nashville. I mean, everybody says we're fixing to crash. I don't think we're fixing to crash. They wouldn't be building that many high-rise buildings downtown Nashville. And the city that I live in, the city that I do a third of my investing in, I don't have a single house for rent here. I don't have anything available. Then in the area in South Pittsburgh, we got 2 doors that we're rehabbing that we just finished one of them. That's the only 2 pieces of property, or only 2 houses in that neighborhood that are vacant. And in the neighborhood we got in Smithfield, the only thing that's vacant is the houses that we're rehabbing. So
awesome.
I don't really have any vacancies that are sitting around on properties that are ready to rent. I do have some vacancies because I bought 2 neighborhoods last year, and one neighborhood had 41 houses in it, one neighborhood had 58 houses in it. And the 58 unit neighborhood needed a lot of maintenance. It was built in 2006, and I don't think they did anything since then. So we're probably putting about $1 million in rehabs in it. So, but it's still
So
going to
you
make a
said
really, really good return.
that's awesome. So I want to circle back. I'm always interested. I'm a real estate coach. I've been in real estate since I started when I was 15 at a receptionist at a real estate firm, and then I became an investor at 22. So I'm always interested on how people got started. I definitely went the slower way. I went the more conservative way. I lived in them for 2 years, and then I rented them and got a new place. How have you been able to do so much in such a little time? I know you said your business has paid for a lot of it, but how did you get started without debt? I'm impressed.
Well, let me just start from the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's
me
not a
too.
long story. It's not a long story, but it'll probably take 10 minutes.
No.
So I grew up in a rough home. I left home when I was 17, and I'm
Love
originally
it.
from New Orleans.
Okay.
So I graduated high school not being able to read. I did graduate, but I graduated not being able to read. You could see the Dick and Jane books or See Spot Run. I could get through a book like that. But as far as ever in my life reading a real book or anything, I never did that. And, when I was in my early 20s, probably 21, 20, maybe 20, I don't know. I had a girlfriend that was in Springfield, Missouri, and I flew out to see her, and we went to church together, and the guy asked me to read. Now, that had never happened to me before, and
Yeah.
I could not read one verse in the Bible. And every time I would start to say a word, he would correct me, and it was the most humiliating thing in my life. So after that, I just kept away from anything that required any reading. So when I started my first business, which was a restaurant service company where I did air conditioning, refrigeration, food service equipment. I did electrical, I did plumbing. If it was in a restaurant, I fixed it. I don't care what it was, curb to curb. So I started that company when I was 24. When I turned 30, I just made the decision. I said, I'm going to learn how to read. And I sat down, and my wife worked with me, and I learned to read. And from 30 to now, I have always been an avid reader, and, playing some catch up on that. But my business, my service business, I went into that, and, my goal was I just wanted to do $100. I was living in an old trailer when I started. I lived in that trailer for 2 years with no running water. I had plywood over half of the windows in the trailer. The floors were so rotted out in the trailer that the dog would stick his head up through them floors and look at you. I mean, that's how broke I was. So the company I was working for, yeah, I mean, it's just what it is. I mean, that's where I was. So the company
Hey,
I
I've
was
been
working
there.
for,
You're not alone.
yeah, the company I was working for, the owner wound up dying, and it was a new startup company, and none of us understood what he was doing. So I worked there for a couple of months after he died, and they repossessed my wife's car. And I come home from work, and I went 2 months with no paycheck. And I come home, and my wife says, she said, I know what you're trying to do, but it isn't working. We can't even eat. So I gave them a notice, told them I was going to quit on Friday. And then on Friday, I quit. They shut the whole company down at the same time, which they needed to do probably the day he died. And then I went home, and I got a call from a guy that was a maintenance technician from Hardee's that I had talked to him doing collections. I did accounts receivables, accounts payable. I worked on the accounting end of that business. And he called me up, and he said, hey, I heard you left Allface. I said, yeah. He said, what you going to do? I said, I don't know. He said, why don't you start a maintenance company? I said, well, I don't know anything about maintenance. He said, well, I really don't care what you know. That was it. I didn't know anything. He said, I don't really care what you know. He said, I just want to know that you're going to show up when I call you. If you do that right there, we'll figure it out. And I was too young and too stupid to know that has got to be the dumbest idea in the world. So I went home, and, I was talking to my wife, and I said, okay, I'm going to go do this. And, if I can make $100 a day, I'm doing better than I've ever done in my life. And that was in 1992, in March of 1992. So I did $382,000 in business between March of 1992 and December of 1992.
Look
Wow.
at you.
Jeez.
You showed up.
And I would just work. I mean, I would go to work, and I would go home at midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Then the more accounts I picked up, now I'm working 2 days and not going home, not sleeping. Then it got to where I'm working 3 days every now and then, not sleeping at all. And that was my life for 9 days. 9 years. I never took a day off of work. I worked from can to can't. I quit when I didn't have a job left on the board. If I still had work to do, I went to work, and I would work for days like that. And
Wow. Your wife
that's what
didn't miss you?
well, I got divorced. And
Okay.
So-
I was like,
so my
how did she
businesses-
stick around for
my,
this?
my businesses have been very much more successful than my marriages have been. So
You're not alone. You're not alone. Don't
that's
worry.
just life now. I think I got a good wife now. I think we're good. So I think we're going to stay together. We'll see. But I sold that business in 2019. I sold that company. We had 72 employees. We were servicing a little bit over 700 restaurants in Nashville. I was probably one of the largest independently owned restaurant service companies in the country, because I was just a sole owner. I mean,
And you
we
didn't know
pumped
how to
out.
fix the thing.
We could do that, and so I did that in 2019. In 2006, when I got into real estate, I didn't know what I was doing, and I would go buy properties, and it worked, and it worked, and it worked, and it worked. You could throw a dart at a board, and it worked. And then in 2010, I bought 3 trailer parks at one time, and they were in Russellville, Kentucky, which was drugs everywhere. And I lost about $8,000 a month on those trailer parks for about 3 years.
Wow.
And at the end of the 3 years, I came in one day on a Saturday, and I told my wife, I said, I don't care what it takes. I'm going to auction those 3 trailer parks off next month, and they're gone. So I called an auctioneer. 30 days later, they put them all on the auction block. I didn't know any money on them, and I sold every one of them for what I paid for them.
Nice.
But I lost that $8,000 a month that I lost that money. I never recuperated that. And then right after that, I had a guy come into my office selling Aflac insurance. And then him and I were sitting down talking, and he said, "Are you part of Rich Dad?" I said, "No, I don't even know what Rich Dad is." He said, "Robert Kiyosaki." And I had never heard of Robert Kiyosaki. So
Cute.
he told me I needed to go buy the book. I said, "Okay." He
Go
said, "Well, I'll
read the
go buy the book tomorrow." He said, "I'll bring you that book tomorrow." I said, "No." I said, "I'll go buy it." He said, "Well, I'm going to call you tomorrow. If you ain't bought it, I'm going to bring it to you." So I went that night to Barnes & Noble, and I bought the book. And that was in December of 2013. And I read 6 of Robert Kiyosaki's books by January 3rd of 2014. And January 3rd, I was at my office looking up what he had, what other books I could read from him. And he had a seminar in Tampa, Florida. So I flew to Tampa, Florida that week, went to the seminar, which was it was worse than a timeshare sale. It was huge. They were looking for $40,000, and they got it. You know, I paid the money, but I went to a class every single month for the next 3 years, and I made their Hall of Fame in 2016. And the information they gave me, I ate every bit of it up, and I implemented it as they gave it to me. If I did a wholesaling class, I went home and did a wholesaling deal. If I did a lease option class, I would go home that month and I would do a lease option deal. And I did a deal every single month during that whole entire 36 months. There was not a month that I didn't go, but from class to class, and not be able to talk about a different deal that I was doing this month that I didn't do last month. And that's how I started in real estate. And it was just, I didn't care what it took to be successful. And I didn't care how much time I had to give. I did not care. It was more about, and I think that's been my life. I've been more about being successful than I have worried about my health or worried about this or worried about that. And, you know, and for me, that worked. For everybody else, that's not for everybody. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't have that desire to sacrifice that much. They got to take a different road, and that's fine too. There's no right or wrong answer in it. I think we all just do the best we can do.
Yeah, I'm a lot like you. I had nothing to lose and everything to gain. So that resonates with me. Yeah, I was like, let's go. Let's just go. Let's do this. Let's figure this out. I wish I had done more real estate research sooner. It wasn't until I got fed up with my corporate job that I was like, I got to learn something else. And I really like real estate. I love decorating. I've been on HGTV. So for me, it's super fun. And he wrote a book on all this stuff I wish I'd known sooner. You know, I learned it at 35. I'll be 39 next month. So it's one of those things like, I really wish I'd learned them sooner. So I could have been implementing them in the recession last time.
Yeah, but you're still pretty young. You're still pretty young, and buying it's still a good time. I know everybody says it's not a good time. As long as our government's printing money like a drunken sailor, We're gonna have inflation, and your land prices are gonna go up. Your homes are
Yeah.
gonna go up, and you know they're gonna. In my opinion, I think they're gonna implement UBI before in the next 3 to 5 years. So once universal basic income comes in, the government doesn't make any money, so they got to print that money. As they print that money, all that's going to do is cause all of your appreciating assets to go up in value. They're eliminating the middle class right now.
100%. You can see it with the
And
hedge funds, right? They
Yeah.
were looking to build a 24 million or billion-dollar fund, and they ended up in 1 month doing 100 billion, right? I mean, that tells
Mhm.
you if they can quadruple their target, definitely, I
Yeah,
agree with you.
yeah,
I
and
100% agree.
it's a scary place. And the problem is, I talk to people about it, but nobody seems to want to listen. And I'm not on that. I'm not. I have no fear of going broke or being poor. I don't. It's just not going to happen. I don't have the debt. I don't. We got 300,000 a month in income coming in, and it's not on my radar. What's going to
Right.
happen with me as they do that? We're going to get richer and richer and richer. And I'm trying to talk to people that really don't have any assets and say, look, you got to do this. You got to get something that's making you money, that
Yeah,
makes money while you sleep. And
100%.
it's a hard
So,
thing
so,
to
so,
convince
so let
people of.
me so let me ask you, Winston, because all three of us have come from a variety of different walks of life, and you've been a coach for a long time, and you've been helping people for a long time. And like you said, you've try to help people that I'm sure are in your network, and you've helped me, personally. You've helped other people that were in Rich Dad, people just around you. But what do you see as the greatest hurdle in today's generation? Is it mindset? Is it self-confidence? Is it the fear of just lack of knowledge? Like what is it?
Yep.
All of it?
All,
All the above?
all
I
of
have
the
my
above.
mouth full of water. You can't do that.
So what I'm seeing is most people, they take their quality of life, and they look at it and they say, I don't have any desire to have money over being able to work a 40-hour work week or a 30-hour work week. I value my freedom more. I value going out with my friends more. I value relationships like that more than I value the work and the money. And they got the misconception that everything's going to stay like it is and it's not going to change. So they don't understand that as you're spending everything you make because you can afford to, that money's not making you any money. So eventually that's going to hurt them. And I think that is a big deal. Then the next thing I see is, you know, I think the lack of knowledge, I don't know that I would use that because, man, I talk to a lot of the younger kids. They have a lack of knowledge in what we do, a lack of knowledge in the principles of how we do it, and a lack of knowledge of how to be successful and what they need to do to be successful. But when it comes to asking them questions about how to figure something out, as far as through the internet and through the different apps and the different programs they have, I think most of them are smart as hell. I mean, they're smart people, and they're smart young men, young women, but their application is more of what I see that they're failing at. I mean, my own kids, my son will tell you that he wants to have money, wants this for here, but he doesn't have the desire to go out and suffer through it yet. And I don't have the ability to give it to him. I just refuse to give it to him. So you're going to work for it, or we're not going to have it. And
Yeah, what's that saying?
I don't know if I answered your question or not.
A broken heart, an empty stomach, and what's the third one? Solves all the problems in the world, like all your own problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, you got to let them suffer. I mean, I've always given my kid cousins a lot of advice, and I make them work for everything. If they want to do something, I loan them the money. When they do it,
Yeah.
we'll talk about if it's forgiven or not.
Well,
But
how
it
else
makes
do
them
you
hungry.
appreciate it? How else do you appreciate it?
100%. And if there's no risk, there's no reward. So you don't feel the same accomplishment as,
Yep.
Thinking you may have to pay. Like, I remember my godson went to school, EMT school, and he's like, will you help me pay for it? And I said, yeah, I'll write you a loan document. And if you don't graduate, you're going to pay me back. And the look on his face, he was like, you're going to make me? And I was like, heck yeah, I am. I'm not a bank. This is, you graduate, we'll talk about it, and of course he graduated and I forgave it. But it's,
How many parents do you actually how many parents do you talk to that as you're talking to them, they'll tell you that one of the worst things I ever did was give my kids everything they wanted? I mean, I
Too
look
many.
at that.
Too many.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere.
Yes.
And that is, my son, I was talking to him the other day and he was talking to me. He said, I just want to go out on a date and do some stuff like that, but I don't have enough money to even go out on a date. And I said, son, get off your behind and go to work. He works, but he works what he needs to work, and that's all he works. So he has to make that decision to step out there and go out and kill something and bring it home and eat it. And I think he's at that point. I think he's finally getting irritated enough that he's saying, you know what? I'm going to go do this right here because I'm sick and tired of being broke. I'm sick and tired of being where I am.
Well, good for you. Good on you, because I know a lot of parents that have a lot of money and their kids, they want for nothing. They lack nothing, and it's not until you have that void, and unfortunately it usually happens when the parents die. Then that void kicks in. But yeah, good for you.
Yeah, I just wonder. I mean, it's weird because I see people, my age, 30s, mid 30s, and even they, make the excuse. Like my brother, for example, the other day, he's in his late 20s, he's in the military now, and he was saying to himself, "Oh, I don't think I'll ever be able to afford to buy a house." In the meantime, I flipped 4 houses in Austin in 1 year. And he's like, "Oh, I can never buy a house." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like it's crazy. Like what is this limiting belief coming from? Like it's coming from manifesting from somewhere. Is it the media? Is it social media? Is what is it?"
So I got a young kid that called me up on the phone, and I have people that fly in to spend a couple of days with me from all over the world, and they come in and I just coach them for a couple of days, and we talk about what we do and just get them on the path. So this kid called me up one Saturday and he said, "Hey, Winston, so-and-so gave me your number. Do you mind if I come talk to you?" And I said, "Okay." So he come to my house and I didn't ask who he was. I didn't ask how old he was. And he looked young. So we talked and he told me, he said, "I don't have anything." He said, "My parents, don't really have anything. And I just don't want to live broke. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like that. I want to do better." And he talked to me and I said, "Okay." I said, "Most people that come and tell you that, they don't do any follow-up." So I told him, I said, take and go home, get you the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. I want you to read that book. And then I want you to read the book, Good to Great. And once you read both of those books, call me back and we'll talk. So he called me back like 4 days later. He said, "I got Rich Dad Poor Dad book read." So I asked him a couple of questions about the book to verify he had read it and he could answer the questions. So then he said, "I've started reading the other one, but I'd like to talk to you before I finish reading Good to Great." And I said, "No, I need you to finish Good to Great, then we will talk." So by that, I don't know if it was that weekend or a couple of days after the weekend, he called me up. He said, "I got Good to Great read. Can I come talk to you?" So he came over and he's talking to me and he's still in school, in high school, but he's being homeschooled and he's working at Chick-fil-A and, so he's asking me, "Can I come to work for you?" And I said, "How old are you?" He said, "I'm 16. I said, 16? He said, "Yeah." He said, "But I can come work with you and we can do this. I just want to learn." And I made the decision. I said, "Okay, you can come to work for me." So he gave him his notice. And when he left Chick-fil-A, he came to work for me. And I don't know what I'm going to do with a 16-year-old kid. He can't drive my vehicles. He can't do this. He can't do that. But I saw something in the boy. And his name is Gunner. So if you look at any of my videos, you'll see a video where I'm interviewing Gunner a couple of different times. So through that, he came to work for me and we talking back and forth. He said, "I need more money than what I'm making." I said, "Well, I'm not paying you more than you're making." I said, "I'm not going to pay you more than what you deserve." I said, this is what this position pays. You got to find something else to do on the side." So he started a pressure washing business on the side. So then he starts working his weekends and now he's making, more on a Saturday than he makes for me all week long. And then he starts getting his Sundays working. So now he's making more. And he's still working, and we're talking, and he's complaining. He said, "Man, I make more on the weekends than I make." I said, then go do pressure washing." "Oh no, I'm not going to do that full time." And then he make the comment. And I said, "Well, we'll go do pressure washing." He said, "Well, I don't want to do that full time because I want to be able to talk to you." I said, "Just because you don't work for me don't mean you can't talk to me." I said, "You need to make a decision as to what's best for you and quit worrying about me." And a couple of days later, he came back and he said, "Well, I don't want to do pressure washing forever." I said, "It's not a forever job." I said, "You're doing pressure washing until you get enough money to buy your first house." So before we had these conversations, I I told him I wanted goals of what he was going to do for 2023. And he said, all right, I'll have $18,000 in the bank for 2023. So I put a thing on my whiteboard in my office, and I call it Gunner's Wall of Shame, because I shame him when he doesn't have his goals met for the week on where he's supposed to be on his savings. So to avoid the humiliation, and I'm going to humiliate him on my Instagram. So to avoid that, he's going to get that money. So he's now doing nothing but the pressure washing, but he's still coming in my office every week and writing on my board where he is on his money. So it's kind of funny. But so he made the decision that he would leave, and he would do for the rest of the summer, that he would do the pressure washing and find a way to make that money. And so he's doing that. I think he's going next weekend or this weekend to a wholesaling class in Vegas. Him and his mom are going to go on that. So I'm watching this kid who's 16 years old doing stuff that people I know 25 and 30 years old still won't commit to do because he's that hungry. And I think it's a cool story because I think anyone can do it. And this boy is showing that anyone can do it. All you got to do is have that desire to get off your behind and just go do it. You got to be sick and tired of being broke and say, I'm going to go make some money because I'm tired of being broke. I'm going to do what it takes. And that is what it takes, I believe. All of us have felt the financial pains, right? We all struggle here and there.
Right. No, well, I guess, for somebody like him that's actually putting in the effort, putting in the work, the next hard part is kind of like the decision making, right? Like just like what you said about the pressure washer business, right? Because a lot of these kids, like for example, I know people in the pressure washing business, and they're not there for pressure washing, right? Pressure washing is not their passion, but they realize that they're making money, and they realize they have a system down. All of a sudden, they have a reliable client base. Potentially they hire somebody else, pay him minimum, and work off of, get money off of his efforts, and then he's scaling his business, right? And he's able to take away time. His business is still running, functioning as more of a passive vehicle, so then he can do wholesaling classes or what.
Absolutely. And that's Gunner's attitude is, he's got somebody else doing a little bit of work for him. We got another kid working for him that's apparently he's doing pretty good. But he's going to go do the wholesaling because I told him, I said, man, you can make good money wholesaling. It's something you learn how to do. Once you learn how to do it, you just go do it. And he has that gift, man. He knows no shame. He has no issue going up to anybody and talking to them about anything. I'm 55 years old, and I don't do that. He's got more guts than I got as far as going up to strangers and talking to people.
Yeah.
Cute.
Yeah. So a kid like that, how far and few in between are they nowadays? I mean, it seems like we're in this TikTok generation, this like instant gratification generation, and you have these whole political campaigns and just this messaging out there that if you even if you fail, it's okay, it's not your fault, it's somebody else's fault. There's like this whole participation trophy kind of economy, and let's be touchy-feely and stuff like that. I mean, do you think that there's that's starting to turn? Do you think society is starting to turn away from that, or are they embracing that more? Like today, I think it was either today or yesterday, they just overturned affirmative action, right? So they can't discriminate in people in college anymore. So does that mean society is going away from the touchy-feely victim mentality, or do you think they're going to double down on it?
I think our society is going to go full socialism. That's my opinion. That's what I feel. As far as that boy that I'm talking about, Gunner, as far as him, I don't know that I've met anybody else even remotely as strong willpowered as him that want to do what he wants to do in the last 5 years. I mean, and I talk to a lot of people. People want it, but they do not want to sacrifice for it. They are not willing. They say they will do what it takes, but when it comes down to it, they will not do what it takes. They'll do enough to get by. It's a scary time. I mean, it's such a shame because I think you take somebody that's decent. You ain't even got to be great at what you're doing right now. If you're decent at it, you could be top of the class, just being decent.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say, it's so easy to look good right now.
Yeah. I mean, the more entitlements they give people, the more trophies, participation trophies they give them. I mean, the weaker our society becomes, and the weaker our society becomes.
Yeah.
And eventually it's going to collapse. And, something's got to happen. It can't keep running like this.
Yeah. I mean, have you seen the change in the culture? Like, for example, I live in Austin, Texas, right? So I live in the blue dot in the red ocean. So you see the difference between the people and their mannerisms and the way they carry themselves here in Austin versus everybody else in Texas, right? It's completely different. Are you seeing any of that kind of personality change now that so many people have moved to Nashville and stuff like that?
We are having a ton of people moving in from California and New York and Chicago and places like that that are coming here. I'm seeing some of it, but I don't see a lot of it. But I'm not downtown Nashville either. I don't invest downtown Nashville because downtown Nashville is blue, and they're not landlord friendly. They're not looking to help entrepreneurs. They're not looking to help developers. They're looking to help the people that don't want to work. And I just don't personally gel a whole lot with people that don't want to work. I mean, if you don't want to work, I really don't have a whole lot of use for you, you know. And that sounds rude, but it's not. I mean, we choose the people we want to hang with, right?
Right.
And I like to be around people that are like-minded with me. You put me in a room of people that want to talk football. I couldn't name you 5 pro sports people across the realm of every single pro sport there is out there. I mean, I've never dove into it. I don't watch it, so I don't know anybody in it. But
right.
I talk about real estate, and that's my whole gig. What I can talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just seems. I mean, in your experience, is it like that from what you've seen as well?
In Vegas?
Yeah, in Vegas.
Oh, yeah. When I moved to Vegas, it was March 2021 and like late February. And yeah, there was just no Uber drivers. There was nobody. I mean, you could make a solid double, tens of thousands driving Uber in 2021 because everyone quit and was boycotting everything. And Vegas is interesting. They work enough to pay their bills and their lifestyle, and that's it. That's where it stops. So you see contractors and workers the first 2 weeks of the month, they're hot and heavy. And then they're coming in drunk on Monday, the third weekend, they're high. They're like, la, 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 I'm like, I'm done investing in Vegas. Just as fast as I went in, I went out. I was like, I don't want to babysit. I'm not in the babysitters club. Like, I paid you to do a job. I went through 8 general contractors on my luxury flip, and I was like, this is not profitable. I got to get out. I can't do this. It's brutal. It's brutal. So yeah, Vegas, definitely we have that.
It's scary too, because you don't know what to expect. You get in that position and you don't know what's fixing to happen. You're trying to figure it out and you just don't know.
Yeah, and in Vegas, they're more likely to break into your place to steal your stuff because they know it's a flip than to actually show up and work. It's wild. Yeah. It's very frustrating for someone who's trying to get ahead. I definitely sat in the house in the dark a couple of nights and was like, come on in, buddy. I'm going to make sure you don't leave this house. Like, you are in Vegas. I can shoot you. I can beat the crap out of you. I'm Muay Thai and kickbox. So I was like, I got sledgehammers and drills. I'm ready to go. I got an arsenal ready. But yeah, it was really frustrating. And I knew it was an inside job. I knew it. I absolutely knew it. So, I was just very coy and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to leave. And then I would come back at night in the dark and I'd leave all the lights off and hope that they walked in. But unfortunately I never caught them. And I was really unfortunate because I was ready. I was ready to unleash some rage on them.
So if you talk to a lot of people that went through 2006, 2007, 2008, everybody went stagnant during that time. When construction slowed down, people quit building. People quit buying. People just quit. For me and my company, I watched all my competitors stop growing. I watched them all go into the mode where I'm going to preserve everything that I got. I'm not going to dive in. I'm not going to do more. And what I did was just the opposite. Is I put every extra dollar I had back into my company, and I grew my company. When they would not add more employees, I was adding more employees. So in the end, the company that wound up buying me bought me because there was no way they could take me over. They couldn't come in and steal my company. They couldn't steal my business. They couldn't steal my employees because I was good to my employees. I was good to my clients, the people we did work for. We were above average. We were very good. But I invested when I saw hard times coming. I invested into what I knew, and I did the same thing. And with 2020, whenever COVID hit, I watched everybody shut down. We didn't shut down. Tennessee didn't enforce anything with that. While everybody was at home, I had all my people working. I would tell them, I don't care if you got COVID. If you ain't sick, you at work. And we didn't take any days off. We all got it at the same time. We went through it. We went right back to work. And we built millions on top of millions of dollars of business during that period of time when everybody else was at home saying, well, I'm getting my check, so I'm happy. And
PPP loans.
I think that is a huge thing for people to understand, man. When everybody else is backing up, man, you need to be pumping it and getting in there and making something happen that's not happening. And I think that's coming from being broke most of my life anyway. And, you know, I never lived like I got money. I mean, I still drive a service van around everywhere that I go. So I don't drive a personal vehicle, a nice car. You know, I'm not about all of that. I'm about everything that I make, I reinvest into real estate. And my wife would tell me all the time, when are we going to stop? And I don't, you know, what are we going to do if we stop? We don't watch TV. We don't golf. We don't fish. We don't hunt. You know, we can vacation only so many times. You did 6 times in 4 months. I'm miserable with that. Please don't make me do it anymore. You know, just let me stay at work. You go vacation. And, you know, but I don't know. I think y'all will probably be the same way I am. I absolutely love what I do for a living. This is not work for me. It's not work for me to sit in this office at 8 o'clock at night and still do some stuff. It's not, I'll wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I lay in bed for about 5 minutes, then my eyes don't go back to sleep, and I just get up and go to work. I don't have nothing to do here, and I come to work, and I'll sit in my office and find something to do. But that's what I'm ingrained in. That's who I am. That's how I identify.
Yeah, from the time she stepped off the plane a few days ago from Vegas, I had her working, Winston. I had her interviews and podcasts, and we're starting a fund together, and we're going to be raising millions of dollars to do self-storage, and we're like, go. And she's like, I gotta take a day off for myself.
I'm an introvert, so let's take a step back. Like I don't recharge exerting energy talking to people, and this guy's like back to back. Like literally Monday we had 3 interviews, and then I spoke at UT Austin.
My event at UT Austin,
and we were out till midnight, and I was like, dang man, like I'm beat.
I was awake at 7 in the morning, hitting the gym, ready for more interviews.
Ernesto, you've been through a lot of hard times too.
Yeah.
In this right here, I mean, everybody looks at it and says everything you do is just golden. No, man, there's a lot of misery in what we do. A lot. There's a lot of failures, and what we do is we take them failures, and them failures can set you back, and them failures can drive you forward. So I've watched you as you go through some different trials and stuff that we've talked about. I mean, you don't lay down. You just dive in and go do it, and that's what the people got to realize. You don't quit.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
but
right.
It would be easier to quit. It would be so easy to just quit.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, you know, I just, you know, I grew up in martial arts, and in martial arts, you know, I didn't really like basketball or baseball or football because you were reliant and dependent on others' efforts. And in martial arts, you're not. In martial arts, you got to put in the time, you got to do the running, you got to do the workouts. If not, you're going to show up in sparring day and get your ass kicked. So you know, that's what I always liked martial arts. And, you know, I've called you a few times, and me and Joe have called you a few times, like scratching our heads, like, what the hell do we do about the situation? But, you know, you just keep pushing through, and you come through on the other side, and everything works out. It works out eventually. You know, you just keep knocking on the door, and somebody's going to answer eventually. And now, you know, now we're talking about raising millions of dollars together to do self-storage. I'm not even worried about those flips that I was telling you about 6 months ago or whatever. Remember? So it's just, I don't know. I mean, that's my mindset, but I guess, I mean, you two would probably have a different perspective, but do you think that's common nowadays with people in general? Is that so rare to find the ability to stick it through?
I think it's rare to find it. I think a lot of people fail a couple of times, and once they fail a couple of times, I can't do it because they're not used to failing. I mean, they don't go to the martial arts events and fail and learn from that and grow from that. You don't go to the baseball games. Everybody gets a participation award. Nobody's a loser. You know, oh, you did great. You didn't catch the ball and you didn't make it on any bases, but you did great. You know, but there is a certain mindset to people that participate in different types of sports and learn how to accept that failure and say, okay, that failure is just a temporary thing. I'm going to do better the next time, because no matter who it is out there, they're going to start their business and they're going to fail, and they're going to fail, and they're going to fail, succeed, fail, succeed, succeed, fail. You know, it just happens. but you don't quit. You never quit. And that is just the biggest lesson to learn in life. Never, ever quit.
Right.
Because
Yeah, I think
you
a lot
don't
of
lose
it,
until you quit. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it stems from the parents. I have not been a parent myself directly, but I've raised 4 children, none mine. And I've studied my family a lot. I've looked at the family social dynamics, and, I remember, I hear a lot of people say, oh, I don't want my kids to hurt like I did. And I'm like, but it's not bad to struggle. It's not bad to hurt. Like, you're teaching them, and I remember very, very clearly one day I had my godson with me, and he'd fallen down and was kind of sliding down a downward hill, and he was looking at me like to save him. And I said, hey, buddy, put your knees down, dig your toes in. And he looked at me like, I don't want to do this, right? And he was little. I mean, he's a little tyke. And he must have been 3 years old. And I was like, come on, bud, you got this. Like, we got to keep trying. And I said, I'm going to show you. And I remember someone around me was like, no parent does that. Your kid's going to get far. And I was like, I never even thought about it, but like, parents don't show their children how to get out. They don't show them, but like, I was never rescued. I'm ESL. I moved from Switzerland when I was 5. English is not my first language. And I remember asking my mom, how do you spell this? My mom threw the dictionary at me and said, sound it out. And I'm sitting there with my French grammar, like, my phonetics are not like,
I know,
wow.
I feel your pain. I feel your
Yeah.
pain.
I was like, well, bump this girl. I'm going to go ask someone else for help, right? And I got really resourceful and I got really creative, right? But it's not that I was looking for an answer. I was just looking for breadcrumbs. Like if my mom had gone through the vowels in English and said, in French, ah, it doesn't sound the same way in English. It's ah, right? And I would have been like, that kind of sounds like an O in French. I could have remapped it, but the patience wasn't there, right? So when I had children with me, and still to this day, I'm very patient with them. I, put your hand here and curl in, when they're climbing on the little climbing scales and how to do monkey bars. But it's funny because, I struggled a lot growing up. I raised myself. I grew up way too quickly. And I think the thing of it is it teaches you tenacity. It teaches you perseverance, that parents rob their children of success by handing them everything. And I watch it in my family and I'm just like, man, let him do it on his own. Like, let him feel proud for himself, right? Like, absolutely. I'll never forget when my godson got to the top of the hill that he thought he was going to go all the way to the bottom, and he made it up. He was jumping up and down. We were high-fiving. He was like, absolutely. Yeah, I did it, right? But like, you rob your child of those opportunities because of your baggage, right? And I guess I just don't live vicariously through them. I'm like, hey, you know what? Like, I would have wanted someone to show me and help me. So I come from my lens. But I think a lot of it, to your point, Ernesto, like, I think I'm so persistent and tenacious because I was alone. I had to figure it out.
I agree.
I think as a parent, the best gift you can give your kids is the ability to fish, right? It really is teaching them how to fish and teaching them how to survive. And you're not always going to be there, and it's not going to be pretty at the end, and, I just watch my family dynamics and I'm like, I do not want to repeat any of it, none of it. It's not happening. Which is why I haven't had kids. I'm kind of been like sorting myself out personally. Like you were saying, my business does better than my personal relationships. Yeah. But now I'm noticing it's a little bit of an inverted because I focus a lot on my relationships leaving corporate America. But I notice the more I focus on me, the better everything falls, right? I have better partners. I have better business partners. I have better, everything. And I can discern crappy people faster. And so for me, it's a balancing act. But yeah, I like your story. It's super cool. It resonates with me deep. I like it a lot. It's funny.
Well, my daughter 2.5 weeks ago, had 2 wisdom teeth cut out of her mouth. Ooh. And me and my wife left and we went to Kim McElroy's Limitless event over in Arizona. So I was going when she got her surgery, and, she went to the doctor the next day, and then Monday I was still going, and she had to go back to the doctor on Monday, and she was crying to me and all. And I told her, I said, look, baby, I said, this pain where it may hurt you is temporary. A week from now, 2 weeks from now, all that pain is gone. But what you're learning right now is you're learning what you can handle as a young lady in pain, and that pain is going to help you grow. I said, I don't feel sorry for you because you're feeling that pain. I said, I wish you wasn't, but I'm excited about the fact that you are feeling that pain, because that pain is going to bring you to a different level than what you understand right now. So then when I got home on Tuesday, I got home late Monday night. So Tuesday she had to go back to the doctor. So I went with her and my ex-wife. We went together, and they had to open her mouth back up. They had to put a tube in her throat because it was infected. And then she came home with me a couple of days later, and she stayed at my house for the weekend. And when it was draining all weekend and she was miserable and crying, but I just kept telling her the same thing the whole time. I said, you are doing better with the pain today than you was doing with that pain before. I said, you are growing. I said, I promise you the pain will stop. It is temporary, even though it's lasted more than a week, which it shouldn't have lasted, but it did. I said, but now you know you can handle that pain for a week, and you know what it is. And then, she called me up yesterday, and I asked her how she was doing. And they went in a couple of days ago. I took her to the doctor for them to pull a tube out of her throat where they were doing the drainage. And she said, I want them to put me to sleep. I said, I don't think you should. I said, I don't think you should let them put you to sleep. I said, I think you should let them do it, and you could just take the pain. And she said, but I don't want to do that. I said, well, the choice is yours. I said, I'm going to pay for it if you want to do that, but I'm going to tell you right now, I think you would be prouder of yourself if you take the pain and let them pull it out your throat.
Yeah.
And we got there, and she's in the seat, and she's asking the doctor, she said, how bad is it going to hurt? He said, it's not going to be bad. She said, no, I want to go to sleep. And then in the last minute, she changed her mind, and she said, I'm going to let him pull it out. So he went in and cut the stitches out of her throat and pulled it. And it was like she didn't even feel it. And she was on top. She was on cloud nine because now she's 19. So she was on cloud nine because they pulled that tube out of her throat, and, she took it, and they did everything with no pain medication or anything. And then I talked to her yesterday, and she's all excited about it. She said, I hated what I went through, but I'm so glad that I went through it because it showed me a lot of stuff about myself that I didn't know. And that's kind of cool when we start realizing that about our lives. And that's everything that we go through in business that we fail at. It shows us something about who we are that we really don't know. And once you experience that pain in your business, that pain of failure, you don't repeat it. You go do something different the next time, and you'll be more successful. You'll be better at what you do.
So with that being said, what was the most painful part that that gave you the most growth in your entrepreneurial life so far?
Good question.
Wow. I think part of the hardest thing was learning how to read, getting through that section of it. I think because I was beat down at home, then growing up being beat down and never feeling like you're successful. You're the stupidest kid in the class. I wasn't the stupidest kid in the class, but I was like third in line when I graduated. I was like third from the bottom of my class. So there was other people worse. But, knowing that everybody was smarter than me, knowing that you look at everybody's family and everybody's families seems to be a little more functional. Well, probably all of them are dysfunctional, but they seem to be a lot more functional. We're living in a house that may not have a back door for a couple of years because my family can't afford to put a back door on it, and you struggle through all that. And all of that stuff makes you think that you're less than what you really are. And, I think those would be my hardest hurdle, would be to get to the point that I have confidence enough in myself to say that I'm good enough, or I deserve what I got, or I was able to do it. I had more than $30 million in real estate before I would ever tell somebody I was a real estate investor. Wow. And I never looked at myself as a real estate investor. It's something I did part-time, and it's just something I did, and it was just maybe 2 years ago that I finally would tell somebody, no, I'm a real estate investor. That's what I do. And I've been a real estate investor for a long time, but I never viewed myself as that. I viewed myself as a service technician is what I related to. Now it's a real estate investor. So,
right.
Just
and you got
that confidence
debt
in
on
myself,
your first project. You got debt on the first project. That is one Robert Kiyosaki lesson you did not implement right away.
There you go. See, yeah. I mean,
but I didn't implement debt because I didn't understand debt. I didn't implement. And still, I have never done a construction loan. So we're going to build this apartment complex and we're going to leverage and get a construction. I don't even know how to go get a construction loan. I've never done that. I know how to go get a loan, and I guess it's the
I can
same
help you.
process. But it's just kind of funny that you're so afraid of the unknown.
Yeah.
But
You
once
didn't know
I
how
do
to
one,
wholesale. You didn't know how to
yeah.
do creative financing. You didn't know how to do
Yeah.
lease options. So it's fun. It's funny to me that debt was the biggest enemy to you. Like that was the biggest fear point or hardest thing for you to
So
understand.
Ernesto, you attended. How many times did you take Rick Mariansky's collective or creative finance class?
I never took the creative finance class. I took the pre-foreclosure class. I took the lease option class. Joe took the Airbnb class, and somebody else took the commercial. Oh no. Brent, our other partner, he took the creative finance class.
Okay.
So we
the
all
creative
shared. We all
finance,
shared classes.
the creative finance class was nothing but numbers for the first 2 days. He took about 2 hours out of the last day, and he talked about different ways, to do some creative financing. I took that class 6 times. I took it 3 times before I made Hall of Fame, and then after I made Hall of Fame, they let me do it again. That's when I bought Christina the package to attend the classes because she didn't go to the classes with me. So she went and attended, and I attended the classes 3 more times with her. And it was so funny because I never really got the creative financing part out of it. It took me that long to learn how to be proficient in my numbers. And I'm going to tell you, I don't ever even remotely worry about any deal that I do because I understand my numbers so much in what I do that I don't go into anything that I see any chance in the world at failure. I don't think that I can fail because I've done all my due diligence, I've done all my homework, and I understand those numbers backwards and forwards, and there's no way my numbers are going to fail me. And
you're not.
And that's what I got out of creative finances was the ability to run the numbers more than I did to learn how to do it, some really creative financing. So it was kind of funny. And I attended it 6 times and never did get the creative financing part of it.
Yeah, because within a lot of those classes, like for example, I took the pre-foreclosure class and the lease option class, and you learn about creative financing in those classes because those are creative finance strategies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just used those strategies and then I applied it, and then I would ask Pip questions, or I would ask Anita questions, or I'd ask Javier questions, and they would indirectly tell me the creative finance strategy. So and then I had Anderson that would give me all the docs and stuff like that. So just kind of figured it out without actually having to take that particular class. I had the tech. I was texting. I still text to this day Anita, who was teaching that class, Anita and Sam.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
So we have an interview with them on Monday. Actually, she just became a grandmother of her 9th child a couple of days ago.
Wow.
9th grandchild, I should say.
Wow.
But yeah, I never took that class specifically, which is kind of funny because creative financing to me is like it incorporates all those strategies. I mean, wholesaling, lease options subject to, wrap mortgages, assuming loans, assuming debt, joint venturing, like, syndications, all that stuff to me is just, I don't know. For some reason, it was easy for me to pick up that. I guess maybe because in school, math was my favorite subject, and I've always been in sales, and I've always been in, even when I owned my gyms, I was always putting deals together. So putting numbers and putting deals and structures together wasn't that difficult for me. It was kind of second nature. The difficult part for me was just going through like we're doing now. And luckily I got out of it was, when the bottom fell out and appreciation prices went down and interest rates tripled. And I was like, oh crap. And I'm like trying to finish this flip and the values are going down at the same time I'm trying to finish. And I'm like, oh shit. I almost got caught. It was almost pretty bad,
There's a lot of people right now that did some bridge debt on apartment complexes that are really feeling that pain and losing their projects and losing their behinds because, they bought at a 3 cap, which I don't understand that, but they bought at a 3 cap. They got 3% interest. They had a huge upside on it. And then as interest rates went up, they did all of the repairs and maintenance with some bridge debt. And then in the end, they finished the project, but interest rates at 7% makes it where they can't get a loan even after doing all of the forced appreciation to it because they came in at a 3 cap and it worked at a 3 cap. And it might have worked with 4% debt on it, but it doesn't work with 7% debt on it or 6.5% debt on it. And there's a lot of people hurting from that right now.
Yeah. And the defaults are starting for sure. But
Absolutely.
we've got another year and a half of this to go, I think, personally. If you guys have questions out there online, by all means, ask away.
Yeah, if you have questions on YouTube,
we'll
now's the time to ask. So
yeah,
go ahead and ask now, and we'll get your questions answered. But yeah, to go back to your point about suffering through the pain. Well, I want to go through suffering through the pain with what you were saying about your daughter. Your daughter or your grandchild. What was it?
That was my daughter. I have no grandchildren yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and with a grandchild, just because growing up in martial arts, I owned my own gyms, right? So being that I own my own gyms, you really get the human development aspect similar to what you're talking about, but from a martial arts context, right? And you learn communication, you learn persuasion and sales because you got to sell gym memberships, right? But at the same time, there's different kind of people that walk into your gym, right? Like there's a guy, he's 6'2", he's 18 years old, he chews on nails and pisses vinegar. Like I could tell him to do whatever and he'll just do it, right? I mean, he's not afraid of anything, not afraid of anybody, full of testosterone, right? And then there's the 12-year-old girl that's being bullied because she's slightly overweight and whatever, she has pimples. And I have to teach both of them the same amount of skills of punching and kicking or whatever. It's the same stuff, but I have to communicate with them completely differently. And I can't talk to the same person I'm talking to the other person, even though it's the same. The jab is the same, the footwork is the same, all the stuff is the same. I have to communicate with them because as a coach, I have to be able to break through that barrier and be able to develop and help them shape their ultimate human potential. And that's all through communication, right?
What a great analogy.
Yeah. I mean, similarly, when you're doing it, because I know you help a lot of people. Well, first of all, what is your motivation to help people and coach people? Because I know you even help people like me that are that have been through some ups and downs. But like, what is your motivation to continue to give and help some of the newer investors, like Gunnar?
I think I look at life, and everything in my life should have failed. Everything. I mean, I probably wouldn't have been unheard of for me to end up in jail or something like that. Maybe. Fortunately, I've never tried drugs in my life, but I would have that temperament and that ability to be able to be a drug addict or something like that. And I just never did any of that. But knowing that there was no reason why I should be successful, I look at other people and I want to make sure that other people who do not have the ability, do not have the know-how, do not have what they need, they got to have that desire. But I have a huge desire to help people that want to be successful be successful. The last couple of years, Elite was really struggling, right?
Right.
And as Elite Education was struggling, Christina and I would go to events every single month. I mean, we would spend $3,000 a month to go to them events, probably something like that. And we didn't go there for the classes the last couple of years. We went there to sit in the bar at night while people were crying about where they were in life and saying that they're not getting what they needed out of the classes because the classes started failing. And they're not getting this, but they paid all this money for this education. We would sit there till 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning just talking to people and working individual people through these situations to teach them, this is what you need to do. Go do this, call me, and let's talk about where you are. And as you do that and you see that you're making a difference in people's lives, okay, I feel like in my life, I have been very blessed in my life. I've worked hard, but I also feel like, I'm not going to turn religious in this right here or anything, but I feel like I put forth the effort and God blesses the effort. He doesn't give me anything. I go bust my behind and bust my ass for it. And I get rewards from that. So I look at that and what I do now is the exact same thing. I look at people's lives, and if I see somebody and they want to be successful, they just don't know how to be successful, I'm more than happy to help them. I don't care how much money they got. I don't care. I just want to know what are you willing to do? I don't want anything out of it. I'm not looking for that. Now I'm charging money to coach now, but the only reason I'm charging money to coach is because I was having so many people call me for coaching calls. I was doing it for free. And most of them were young kids that really don't know what to do, but they have no money. They have no job. What can I do to get rich? I have no money. Okay, I can't help you if you don't at least have a job and don't have that. So then we came in and we started doing the coaching lessons for a few $100s for a coaching lesson. And I had a guy call me last week, and we did a coaching. When I was in Arizona, I did a coaching session with him. And then he lives in Huntsville, Alabama. And he asked me, he said, can I just come up? Or he was talking to me. I said, why don't you just drive up and come see me? I said, you don't have to pay me for that. Just come up and see me. So he drove up this morning and spent a few hours with me. I run him through a bunch of stuff and send him back home. And I don't mind giving up that time for free for somebody that's going to go home and they're going to implement it. They're going to make it work and they're going to do something to change their life. And I think he's going to. I think he's driven. And I love working with people that you can give them a little bit of information and they're going to take that information and they're going to go do something with that information. They're not just, I can't hand anybody success. You can't hand anybody success, right? You can hand them the knowledge that you have in your head and say, you got to go do it. But every bit of it that you do for them, they don't get the same appreciation that they get out of going and putting in the time and working for it themselves. You do that application in yourself, and then something inside of you clicks and says, I'm the one that done that. Somebody didn't do that for me. I did it. And that's the outcome I'm looking for in that.
Right. I mean, for me, so I guess all three of us have a different skill set, I would say, right? You have a different skill set than Jacqueline. Jacqueline has a different skill set than myself. I mean, my skill set has always been somebody that's been a connector, right? A networker. Like when I was running up and down at Rich Dad, I would go to, I don't know if you remember this, but Anderson would have their tax and asset class, and you can take the tax and asset class in limited amount of times. So I would just go city to city, state by state, and just take the tax and asset class because you only could take so many classes. I bought like the lowest package, like 17,000 or whatever, right? So you can take the tax and asset classes as many times, but it gave you access to the ballrooms, to the networking, and that was my favorite thing, and that's how I met everybody from Rich Dad, right? I would just go out and network, and if we went to Vegas, I would take them out afterwards, and we'd go have dinner, or we'd go to like a silent disco, or we just do. I remember taking Javier to his first silent disco. He had just got elected to the Hall of Fame, and now I would call him in the beginning, especially me and Joe. We would call Javier, and he I think he was on the live. I saw him. He said hi. I would ask him like 20 questions because he had flipped so many houses, and now I've watched him move away from flipping and all that other stuff, wholesaling into multifamily, and now he's running the $1 billion boardroom. He's doing all that stuff. So my skill set has always been kind of helping other people through networking, right? So I would go out and network. Like right now, for example, I run a bi-weekly event. I think you're going to come speak at it at UT Austin. Right, at UT Austin, I'm giving away knowledge from investors like Jacqueline, like my friend Kelly. He does oil and gas. Gretchen, Gretchen from Pips Path. Mm-hmm. She's coming to speak. You're coming to speak. I have Anita coming to speak. So they're just coming and giving value to these crowds, and you're starting to see these crowds grow. I mean, the first time we did it, we had like 12 people, and now we had like 30 people last time. And now it's starting to grow, and people are signing up for appointments, and they're crying. Like Jacqueline's told a story, and there's people crying in your story. So you're starting to see the value being added to these folks, and through that, I make further connections of people wanting to invest. Now we're going to start a fund together to do self-storage. So for me, like I've always kind of connected people with other folks, and gave them the ability to not be afraid to ask those questions, because I'm not afraid to approach anybody and ask them a question, right? So like kind of like what you're saying, most people are afraid just to like walk up to somebody because they don't want to sound dumb, or they don't want to waste their time, or whatever they think. And by having these events, I'm trying to do my part to bring the curiosity and connect those people that would have never done it themselves, bring them out of their shell, if that makes sense, right?
You're changing people's lives forever.
Trying to, and then I'm trying to do content like this where we're recording it and put it out there and bringing value to people. So I don't know. I think everybody has their own thing. I mean, but Jacqueline wants to start, and she's going to be starting in October. We're starting her own real estate university, and you want to tell them what your motivation is for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, being in the corporate space, I'm a numbers person. I'm going to pause really quick and then I'll answer your question. Somebody asked the question, explain what a 3 cap, 4 cap is for multifamily. Randog 45X. I just want to answer the question in case they got to go. But so when you buy a property, you look at the net operating income it makes, and you divide it by the purchase price. And that's the cap rate that you're paying for that building. And the reason Winston was saying what he said, when you're buying at a 3 cap and your interest rate is at 3%, you're net neutral. You're not making anything. When your interest rate is greater than your cap rate, you're losing money. So you need your cap rate to be greater than your interest rate and greater than your expenses altogether, including debt service. So that's why the 3 cap is a capitalization rate. So how much are you earning for how much are you paying? Things got really out of control last year. We were seeing the 2, 3 cap rates when, I mean, I don't buy unless it's 10. I'm like a double digit girl. So it really, that's why we pivoted and left. So I hope that answers your question. If you have a follow-up question, by all means, ask.
Can I ad lib to that just a little bit?
Yeah.
So if you are an investor and you go buy let's say you buy a single family house, and you take the amount of money that you're making, your net operating income at the end, that's your total rents less all of your expenses. You take that and you divide it by your investment, and that is how much money you're making. It's like buying a CD and how much interest you're making off of that money. So you want that cap rate to be as high as you possibly can get that cap rate. Then when you turn around and you sell something, if you're selling a multifamily building, if you're selling a storage building, if you're selling a commercial building, they're going to sell that building based off of a cap rate. So they're going to do all of that, right? All of the thing. It doesn't matter what you're making on the cap rate. It's what are you going to sell for? So you may be making a 8% cap rate on your product. And if you can sell it for a 4% cap rate, then you're going to make a tremendous amount of money, because you would divide the same number by 4 rather than by 8. And that is where they were buying apartment complexes at a 3 cap. They were getting interest, or they were making a 6 cap on it or a 5 cap on it. They had a 2% spread, but they did it with bridge debt, which meant they had to re-up it in 3 years or maybe 5 years or maybe 2 years, whatever it was. And when the interest rates went up above that 6% or that 5% that they had, they no longer could make the spread on the money anymore. So you want to sell at as low a cap rate as you can sell a piece of property for, but you want to buy at the highest cap rate you can possibly buy at. I don't know if that helps it or not. It might make them even more confused. I don't know.
You're talking about bridge.
Ask the question again if you still don't understand. There's never a bad question.
No.
You went from Mr. No Debt to talking about bridge debt now. What the heck? Yeah. One conversation.
So we understand it.
I like it. I like that you're talking about it, because you were saying you stayed away from it. So yeah, I'm launching the 360 Real Estate University. Basically, I left my corporate job to help build wealth for people. I've always worked with billionaires. I was an international tax planner for Fortune 250. I've IPO'd companies. I've spent 7 years learning taxes and money through Ernst & Young. And when you see taxes, that's when you're really seeing all the money, because you get the profit and loss statement, the financial statements, but there's no tax line, right? It starts at net operating income. And I always tell people, none of it matters until you see the net number. I could tell you my gross numbers, like, oh yeah, I bought the house for 200, I sold it for 6, but what did you net? That's always the question I want to know. I'm like, it's not impressive until I know what you're taking home. I want to know about the bacon coming home. So I realized when I left, I got on social media, because my ex was a social media influencer, and he was like, yeah, you got to be like this guy, Grant Cardone. And I watched a video, and it was like, yeah, so just liquidate your 401k, take it into cash, pay the penalties, pay the early withdrawal penalties, and go buy real estate. And in my head, I was like, you could still buy real estate without liquid. What the heck kind of?
And he's saying basically give me that money and let me invest it for you.
Yeah.
I was like, I could lose my license giving that kind of advice. That is such crappy advice, right? And I kept scrolling these other big influencers, and I was like, I can't. And then I started really peeling back the layers of the onions with my real estate university and started talking to a lot of them. So I was like, oh, if I get big names, then I'll get more followers, then I'll go faster, right? And then I realized these big names, very few make money in real estate. They'll tell you they do. They will tell you the world. I know somebody, they lost $2 million in flips last year in the last 6 months. They're building a fund to bail themselves out. And I was like, you're handing a dog with mange to a person and saying this is a purebred. What the heck are you doing? In my head,
and they can do that with a clear conscience.
Oh, I know.
How do you do that?
And I'm an accountant. I'm like ethics, moral code. Like I don't want to go to jail. I got anti-money laundering. I've got wire fraud. I've got all kinds of stuff, right? So being a retired CPA now, working in the space to educate people on wealth, right? Like how do you cut down your expenses so that you're compounding your money? How do you make more money with the money that you took back from taxes, health insurance, your top 5 expenses?
Triple M.
Yeah, my triple M.
She has a triple M method.
Yeah, so
I helped her coin. I'm gonna take a little bit of credit.
He's a sales guy. Yeah, so we look at, he called it the Mendoza Millionaire Method. So it's basically like we mitigate all your expenses. So we take your expenses, we pull as much of them down as we can through doing different tactics, which again, I learned working with venture capitalists and IPO companies. And then, from there, you manage your assets, right? You got to really manage your assets because you worked hard to earn them. You don't want to get married and then hand them over in a divorce. That's the last thing people want to be doing, or bankruptcy because you started a business and didn't set it up right. We want to make sure we manage those. And not only that, but we manage it through your death. So your family isn't dealing with probate, because that's the worst thing you could do is die on. And then on top of them, tell them to go fight in court for your assets. That's just not a nice move. And then the third thing is multiplying, right? Like compounding your income and realizing that compounding interest, it works in your favor and it works against your favor, right? So like debt works against you to a point. So you want enough debt to get to where you need to be, but not too much debt where you're over leveraged and then it's working against you, right? You're paying more than you should. So knowing those fine lines and knowing how to balance it, but also like a rental, if you have a rental that's paying you $1,000 free cash flow, how to pay down that debt faster. So taking a 30-year mortgage at these days in interest rates, taking it down to 13 years, if interest rates were lower, you could get in the single digits with just 2 tricks, right? And so those are the things we're teaching at 360 Real Estate University, and bringing a bunch of cool coaches in and people to help educate people in their specific field. But it was really hard finding people that had a lot of money in the real estate field that they said they taught in. And I was like, man, this is interesting. Like, I'm not a false prophet and I'm super transparent and honest. I have to be. Plus, there's only one of me, Jacqueline Matozas, in the world. So if you Google me, it's all going to come up. So I better not lie. I had someone say, are you really in the Junior Olympics? I said, go Google. I think it's on page 2 or 3 now because of HGTV. I had a guy say, were you really on HGTV that was dating me? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, you can Google me. There's only one of me. Like, what do you mean? What kind of question is this? So I can't lie. It's not in my nature. But yeah, to your point, it's fascinating how people do this. They pull these shenanigans and then they upsell and upsell. Like that's the other thing. My real estate university, I can't do an upsell. It's not right. If you paid for a course, you paid for a course, you paid to learn. You have the right to learn. It's just not fair and right what these coaches are doing. And it made me really angry. So I decided, education is for everybody. Maybe I'm a little socialist and my European ways are coming in that way, but I know, but I feel like education, everyone should be able to have and be afforded an opportunity to better their life. And it comes through knowledge and teaching to fish. And so, I launched my 360, and then in a year, we'll probably launch the Entrepreneurs Academy. So teaching people the 3 pivotal points of a business, how to do your lead gen sales and your ops and how to scale and all the fun things that you need to know, but not everybody knows. And, networking is huge. It's a huge skill. So that's kind of what I'm up to these days. But I'm a wealth manager by trade. I build financial plans and get people into retirement as quickly as possible so they can get out of their W-2 jobs and work a job that's not work like us.
I agree.
Yeah, that's what I do. That's my background. So
I'm an infinite investor. I don't do any deals at all if I can't do a 100%, if I don't have the potential to 100% be in an infinite return in less than 24 months of the deal. I don't touch a deal that I can't do that. Now, I'm going to tell you, I really rarely ever go into a deal that I can't immediately go into an infinite return. But I told you in the beginning, I'm only leveraged 23%. So I don't do that often, but every deal that I do, I can do that with. And that's what I like to teach people also is how can you do that where you got nothing invested in? How can you do it where you're getting, a 300% return or, I'm not happy if I can't make at least an 80% return on this. And we look at that, and I did a video yesterday where I just bought a piece of land and I'm building a duplex on it. And I mean, when I finish it, I could do a cash out refi and not have a penny invested in a deal and still make great money. But I showed it leaving 80. If I left 20% in the deal and did a cash out refi, let's say I was an individual who couldn't build with cash. I did a construction loan. I put 20% in the deal. I built it. Then at the end, we did a permanent loan on it with 20% in. That whenever I factored in my cash flow, 5% appreciation, so a very low appreciation number, even though we're way higher than that, 5% appreciation. Then I took my depreciation off of that at 24%, and then I put my principal reduction in there also. And through all of those together, I was at 80% return, full return of investment. So I'm gonna get the cash flow every year. I'm gonna get the depreciation. I'm gonna make that every single year. But as far as my appreciation goes and my principal reduction goes, I'm only going to get that if I sell the property or do a cash out refi. But that is how I diagnose the deals down. I want to know all of it. I don't want to just talk about one area. I don't like investing in areas that I don't get any appreciation, because I think appreciation is huge. And you work all the angles. It's and understand the deal.
Yeah. I had someone the other day tell me, oh, if I'm worried about taxes, I'm not making enough. And I was like, man, that is a worker's mindset and mentality. Like, I don't have it. I'm like,
I haven't paid a penny of taxes in 10 years.
Right?
I mean, we don't pay no taxes at all. Even when I sold my business, I didn't pay any taxes, nothing.
Yeah, that's my thing. I put enough real estate in my businesses and in my portfolio to make sure I'm in a loss carry forward for sure. Oten, the studio, or Otenba, I don't know how to say your name. What does it cost to join your mentorship program? I think we all have mentorship programs. The 360 Real Estate University, you can join. We're going to be selling tickets in the hundreds of dollars. We're just tying down dates and location right now. So again, not expensive to come out, have a 2.5 day debrief and download on everything we're talking here. I mean, Winston graduated into the debt world. I'm proud of you. I lived in the CPA space, so we were always doing, seller financing and installment loans and stuff like that for a long time. That's how we bought a lot of businesses in the corporate space when we were doing acquisitions. So very seldomly did we take out real debt. We just did seller financing, or sometimes the companies had so much cash they just paid cash. But yeah, so hopefully that answers your question. I don't know, how much are your programs, Winston, your memberships?
Well, I really don't. I got a 3-day class that we're fixing to do in September. That's going to be $1,000 a person, but that's me including meals and stuff like that also for the class. And then we do the phone mentorship. We do for, I think, $300 a mentorship, and that's a whole lot more than, like I said, the guy that did it with me just now, he did the mentorship, and I figured he wanted to invest in that. If you want to come up and see me, come see me. So he came up and spent some time with me. So I want to give people what they need. I don't want to, in the end, it's not about that money. It's about, I want to know that I'm not wasting my time to spend some time talking to somebody that really wants it. They're hungry.
Yep.
Yeah, Oten Best Studio. If you want, you could DM me. I'll give you my pricings as well. If you want to learn how to the networking and the capital raising and all the stuff that I've done to build your power team, I do it every day. So I'll teach you how to do that stuff real fast. But yeah, let's see if there's any other questions here. It says nothing new.
No new.
No, nothing new.
Nothing new. All right.
So we've been going for about
an hour and a half.
A little over an hour and a half now, Winston.
It's amazing how time flies, ain't it?
Time flies when you're having fun, huh? I'd like to do it again before Jacqueline leaves Vegas, if you're open to it. She's leaving on the 10th.
I'm open. Let me know when.
Okay, great. So final messages before we go into this 4th of July weekend, holiday weekend. Anything else you want to tell the people?
Well, anybody wants to reach out to me on TikTok or Instagram or any of that, it's just Real Estate Templet, TEMPLET. That's all you got to go to, and check out some videos, and don't judge me on those videos. I decided I wanted to start doing some stuff, and I was actually talking to my ex-wife about it, and she said, I got a guy. So she sends a guy to me, and he comes over, And he's like, okay, let's start filming. And I'm like, what? So we just started doing it. And
Yeah.
that was in January, and we picked up, 35,000 followers on TikTok in like 3 weeks. And then it just TikTok kind of went stagnant, didn't do anything. And Instagram was growing at a slow pace. And then, it caught up with it and surpassed that. And, it's growing, but, I know I want to affect people's lives, how I want to do the Instagram and the social media stuff. I'm still trying to figure out what my path is and what I want to do. So until I know what I want to do, it's giving people, we run a lot of numbers. We talk about dissecting jobs down. The duplex I was telling you about a second ago, we did that yesterday, or I did that yesterday. And we're just trying to educate people and have fun doing it, make it funny. I did a couple of promo videos on the class that we're going to do, and my wife told me, do not do any more videos. if you go to the Instagram account, you'll see one of them with me, and I'm in my bucket truck, the bucket on my bucket truck. If you watch the video, you'll say, this guy's out his mind.
Oh my God.
That's so funny. I love it. I love it.
It's just about having fun with it. If it's work, I don't want to fool with it. If it's something that I got to do and I got to mind my P's and Q's, that doesn't interest me either. I just want to be me. I want to be me. I like to have fun. I like to joke about stuff, and things just are what they are.
Yeah, I agree.
So you have any plans for the holiday weekend and 4th of July?
No, we're supposed to go to Cancun on the 5th.
Again?
So
I thought you just came back.
I told you my wife plans 6 weeks vacation in 4 months. This is the last vacation. This is the last one.
Okay.
And I've tried to get out of it. I don't think it's going to work. I even told her this morning. I said, just tell them to postpone it to a different month. We got a ton of stuff going on. I got a property management company I just terminated, and we're dealing with that. It is what it is.
My grandma says, if you're not having fun, keep drinking. You'll have fun
That
eventually.
That is true. It'll eventually work out, right?
Are y'all big on fireworks or 4th of July out there?
We are not. I used to be when my kids were young, but we will probably go over to Christina's mom and dad and hang out. They like to play Mexican train and stuff like that. So we'll probably do something like that. And I think she's got some cousins coming up from Puerto Rico. My wife's Puerto Rican. So she's got some family coming up from Puerto Rico. We'll probably hang out. Who knows? They get together. We probably roasted a pig. I don't know. Just show up.
When's are you still living in that Jurassic Park castle that you have in Nashville? You should see this guy's backyard. It literally looks like Jurassic Park back there.
Oh, you got the dinosaurs?
No, so
just
not
the acreage.
Oh.
The way it looks
I
like
thought
a
you were
forest.
talking about like there's a Flintstone home in the Bay Area that actually has dinosaurs.
Oh.
I was like, oh, are there dinosaurs?
So I bought this house on my way home from work one day, and it was just under 12,000 square foot. So it was a big house, and I wasn't expecting to buy it, but the guy came down to an offer price. So I went home owning a 12,000 square foot house that my wife didn't even know I was looking at houses. And I went home and said, okay, we're moving. So it ended up, all the kids were gone, and it was just me and Christina in the house. And I said, all right, I bought an apartment complex, and I left for a year to go rehab this apartment complex. And my wife would come visit me where I was working, but I never came home. So she started Airbnb-ing it. And when I came home, I didn't come back to that house until 2020 when COVID was hitting. And because people couldn't travel, there would be 4 and 5 families all get together and stay at that house. So you'd have 30 people staying in a house, and we were living in a 2-bedroom apartment in the basement of it. And after about a week of that, I called her up and I said, look, I'm going to build a house down the road. We had 45 acres down the road. I said, I'm going to build a house on that 45 acres. I'm out of here. So I built the house, and then we got the house built, and she was bringing in about $40,000 a month.
Nice.
On that Airbnb. Now, you was just talking about you're not impressed with the numbers until you see the numbers.
Yeah.
So after I built it and we moved, I told my wife, I said, I'm selling the house. She said, no, we're not selling that house. She said, we're making way too much money with the house. I said, well, first off, I'm not asking you if I can sell the house. I'm letting you know that I am selling the house, and you need to figure out what we're going to do with the Airbnb. And second off, you're making $40,000 a month, but you're not bringing home a good profit off of a $2 million investment. I said, that's, where you're bringing in about maybe a positive $20,000 a month off of it, which is, you say, well, that's 10%,
Yeah, I was going to say, not bad. Double digits.
I'm not complaining about that. But in my attitude is, if you give me $2 million today,
yeah,
you give me 12 months with that $2 million, I'll turn that $2 million into $4 million.
Yeah, we do 8-figure flips.
For
sure.
And you're doing the same thing with what you're doing with your storage buildings. Give you $10 million, you'll turn that $10 million into $20 million. So
25.
that was my philosophy and why I'm going to sell the house. We didn't really have any debt on the house. I'm going to sell the house. I'm going to take that $2 million. I'm going to turn that $2 million into $4 million, and I'm going to turn that $4 million into $8 million. And we're going to just keep moving that money like that. And really we just build, we do a cash out refi, pull as much as we can pull out of it on some of that. That's where we got the 23% debt now, is pulling as much as I can pull out, where we still got, good cash flow, but not great cash flow, but we're living more off of taking it and turning it into another house. Now I got, $50 million worth of equity or properties that we're getting appreciation on, where we wasn't getting near that much before. So that was kind of the philosophy of that right there. So now we actually built another house, then we sold that one. She still manages the Airbnb for the gentleman that bought it, because he kept it as an Airbnb. But nice. We just moved somewhere else. And then I told her I was going to live where we're living for 3 years, and then I would build her dream old home on the back hill. And she started looking at plans a couple of months ago. So I guess that's going to probably happen in the next year or so.
Well, if you need a 1031, a couple million our way, we'll take it. We'll give you triple digit returns. So we'll take good care of it. We're really good at it. And you can just sit and keep doing your business.
You could go to Cancun.
No, he doesn't want to. I was like, you can sit and drink margaritas, but he doesn't want to drink margaritas.
Well, we may have to talk. We may have to talk about some properties I got in Nashville, and I got some properties that would be really good for that. In my opinion, you would have to do an analogy of the location of it and say, hold up, because it's about 15 miles outside of Nashville, but it's between a couple of other cities. And where that land rests is kind of in a bedroom community. So you may say, well, we don't invest in a bedroom community because you don't, maybe within a 5-mile radius, we have what you're looking for, but you don't have near as much in a 1-mile radius. So Ryan Holmes is building 350 houses about a quarter of a mile down the road from it. I'm building a 16-unit apartment complex, maybe a mile, 2 miles down the road from it. There's stuff there, but it might not work, but it might be something worth talking about in a while.
We look 1, 3, and 5. So, and we're like I said, we're building in Morganton, North Carolina. So there's like 35,000 people in the entire town. So it's I think there's about 20,000 in a 10-mile radius. So it's not too big.
Well, this is about 1,000 feet off of the interstate. So it's a good property that's very easily accessible.
Yeah, and that's exactly the land we like.
So.
Yeah, we have another build coming out on San Antonio. It's called Rigsby. It'll be another 4-story building in the next month or two.
Yeah, we're going to start raising for that.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
We're always raising money. So we're always looking for deals too. And we're happy to partner. We'll partner.
Well, next time you come to Nashville, let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at it, and I'll show you the stuff I got. And
okay. It's road trip.
I have
next week. Here we come.
Come on.
Before the 5th.
I'm supposed to be in Cancun next week.
I said before the 5th.
But as of right now, I've never partnered on a deal. So I have never in my life partnered on a deal. I have an apartment complex that I'm going to syndicate, so that'll be my first partnership. I have a 10-unit townhome development that my attorney's been asking me for years to do a deal with him. And my land cost was high enough. I said, I don't want to do it by myself. I'll go ahead and bring a partner in because the land cost was higher. And then I found a way to manipulate that. So now my land cost per unit is only going to be $7,000 per unit. But he's I've already agreed to him to come into the deal. So he's going to come into the deal with me, and we'll do that. So that'll be my first time to do a partnership, but it'll be 2 different partnerships there. And, I'm excited about it. I'm excited to experience it, and it's a whole different avenue of money. So many people talk about OPM, 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 OPM,
Yep.
and it's funny when you don't understand it, you don't understand it, or I understand it. I just don't understand the value of it because I haven't used it, and
Yeah.
realize that, hey, instead of 50 million in assets, you now got 400 million in assets.
Yeah. I was going to say 8-figure flips here.
Yeah,
That's what we got to
absolutely,
get you into.
absolutely.
I'm like, I can't even bother with single family. I'm like, man, all the roofs, the drains, the people. And then if the people don't pay the bill, then it's an expense. I'm out of it. Like, I'm done. I make way too much money in commercial, and all I do is get to talk to people all day. So I like it.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Look forward to talking to y'all then about it.
Yeah,
for
we're
sure.
gonna have to take a road trip out there
Yeah,
one of these days.
Definitely.
We're next weekend. We're learning how to do a country one step.
Oh yeah, we're gonna line dance. We're gonna learn the
take
one
me
step.
line dancing with her friends. So maybe I'll bust a move when I see you in Nashville.
Sounds like fun. Sounds like fun.
All right.
Nessa's coming with his 2 left feet.
Well, thank you, Winston. Thank you for your time. I appreciate
thank y'all
it.
for having me on. I appreciate the time. I always love talking to you. Just anytime.
For sure. I'm gonna go ahead and end this live. So make sure y'all follow Winston, the real estate template, on Instagram, TikTok. Are you on Twitter also?
I'm not on Twitter, just Facebook. We got it on Facebook also. So
okay, Facebook. What about YouTube?
YouTube also, and it's just all
YouTube
real estate
also.
template. All of it's the same.
Perfect. So make sure you follow him. Follow us at you want to tell him?
I'm at Jacqueline Matoza. There's only one of me. You can Google. You'll find LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. You can go watch me on Battle on the Beach, HGTV season 2. That was a lot of fun. So.
And for me, High Income Skills. Make sure you follow Real High Income Skills, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and then my Instagram here, Ernesto G. Gerardo. So until then, I'll see y'all later. Thank you, Winston, for your time.
Thank
Hope
you.
to talk to you again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon.
All right. How do
Excellent. There you go.
Okay. Cool. We ended.
Dude.
Cool.
Cool. That was good.